Hello, ladies and gentlemen. So last time we were dealing with geometric constraints and construction tools to create some random stuff that looked kind of like this. And we're going to use these skills to create this guy that you already have because you copied it from me, but I'm going to show you how to make it. And the tricky part to this thing, if we look at the top view, is that this is lined up with the top of that. And there's some things that make this difficult to make just using normal dimensioning and stuff. So I'm going to show you how to make that, and you're going to make this in your advanced modeling project. Go ahead and start a new part, or as usual, please name that part, call it section part 2. All right, and this time we're going to sketch on the top because we're going to make the top view and use the 3 extrusions to make that. So let's sketch on the top view. You can keep the planes if you want, view normal to the plane so I can see what I'm doing. I am going to keep the origin point there this time because I need to make some, I'm going to hook up to that and make sure that I'm constrained. All right, start off with a rectangle. Now I'm going to give you the sizes to use because I'm going to draw it at full size based on the grid that we did when we did this drawing at just 1:1. So we're going to start a rectangle, hook to the origin point, and it's 12 by 18. So it's 18 wide and 12 deep. All right. Now notice that got huge based on what that little sketch plane was. That's going to happen. This sketch plane box thing will change sizes depending on what you're doing. But remember, that's just a reference. See, like it moved that time. It may do that to you. I personally like to take dimensions and get them out of my way. It's up to you whether you want to do that or not. But we got a 12 by 18 rectangle. Now, we're going to put in a circle for that biggest counterbore thing. But here's what's important is we're going to line up to that center mark, that center point of this edge. So that square shows up and we're going to drag over, and see when the yellow line shows up is when you're going to click. Drag your mouse out and click again, and then we're going to set that to, I believe it was 8.5 in diameter. So 8.5 circle, okay? Now it's blue. This little point showed up because it's showing that something is referencing the midpoint of that line. Okay, so this thing, I can take it and I can move it horizontally because it's not constrained that way, but I can't move it vertically because it's already constrained vertically to that point. We're going to place another circle onto that center point, which is going to be 4, I think. Let me make sure of that. Yep, 4. All right. Now, excuse me, we're going to lock that into place horizontally with a dimension. So from here to here is 6. Okay. Now, everything's black at this point because I've locked it. These 2 circles center points are locked together. The center point of this is locked to the midpoint of that. What's cool about geometric constraints instead of dimensions is that if I change something, like let's say I made a mistake and I'm like, whoops, oh, that was supposed to be 13, or just for this purpose, let's say 15. Okay, and I change that, it will still stay in the middle. Okay, so sometimes constraints are better than dimensions. Let's move that back to 12. All right, now I need some reference points because there's lines coming off of this, and there's points that I need to line up with the larger circles. So we're going to place 4 points on these 2 circles at the north and south polar extremes, right? So here's how to do that. We're going to place a point hover over the center so that that thing shows up. And when you drag, you'll see that little yellow dash line show up, which means I'm lined up with the center. I'm going to place a point there. I'm going to do it again down here on the bottom for the big circle. Then I'm going to do the same thing upward, making sure that that little yellow line shows up. If it's blue, you did something wrong, okay? Those little points should all be black, right? All right, now we're going to place 2 more points that are going to be reference points over here. You'll learn why in just a minute. Sometimes you have to plan ahead, and so right now we're planning ahead. And I'm going to put a point, whoops, make sure that dashed line shows up, hook to that line and horizontal to that top point. Same thing with the bottom. Horizontal to that bottom, click there. Okay, so we got a bunch of points. Okay, now what I'd like you to do, just up here somewhere, doesn't matter where, we're going to make 2 just random lines. They can be horizontal. That's fine. They're going to end up horizontal anyway. So hit escape in between, 2 random lines. All right. And finally, for your before picture, please make a circle that is lined up with the center point of those 2 circles we made. Drag way over here. Okay. We'll explain why this is going to happen, why this is going to work the way it works. Over here, click and just make a random circle of whatever size. It doesn't matter because we're going to deal with that later. Okay. All right. Actually, one more thing is that I'm going to ask you to do is to place a point, this time horizontally hooked to that circle and lined up with the center. And again, if I move the size of this circle, that little point will stay on the circle and it will stay horizontal to the center point. Okay. All right. So you've got this. What I'd like you to do is take a picture of this. You can leave the sketch on because we're going to continue working with it. Make sure, again, your name's always in there. And this is going to be your before picture. All right. Okay. So you've got your before picture. Now we're going to take our after picture. So here's what's going to happen. I don't know the dimension of this circle. All I know is where points are. So that's why geometric constraints are kind of cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dimension this point that I know is 15 over from the edge. So we're going to dimension this to the edge over here, and it's going to be 15. Now, it might make the circle huge. It might not. I don't know. Okay. Now, I just kind of realized we probably only needed 1 point, but we have 2. So now we're going to make a coincident constraint that holds that point to that circle. Now, it should turn black. Yes. So I don't need to do the other one. I really only needed 1 in the first place. But now we've got all of this stuff. Okay. And I never knew what size that circle was, didn't know what the diameter was, but I do know the location of this point, and I do know the location of that point and that point. Okay, so we've got that all together. All right, now we're going to trim out what we don't want. So we're going to trim out that and that, okay, leaving us with that surface. And finally, we're going to take these 2 lines and place them in the right spot. So we're going to do a coincident constraint. Now, these are already horizontally constrained, right? So they won't change from horizontal. So if I take this guy and coincident that point to, whoops, I'm the wrong one. I need that point. Okay, it's going to move that line. And then I want to make coincident this point to that arc. All right. And then we're going to do the same thing with the other one. Coincident constraint, this point to that point, and this point to that arc. Okay. Last thing before we extrude is to trim out this little part right here. And we're going to trim out that arc. Cool. Okay. So we're fully constrained. Everything's black and it's ready to extrude. So we're going to do 3 extrusions in kind of a weird way to build this thing. Finish the sketch. Okay, let's move things around a little bit. So basically, I'm going to build this up from the bottom, from smallest to biggest. So I'm going to extrude. This shape right here is going to go is 5 units up. I know that looks weird and you're going, wait a minute, what's going on? But remember, your sketch is still there. So we're going to turn on the visibility of the sketch. And now we're going to extrude the other things. Extrude this shape, this kind of weird crescent wrench looking thing, is going to go 7.5. Okay. And finally, this last one is going to go the full, it's 10 units up. So is how high that is. So that's going to go 10. And cool. All right, let's turn off the visibility of the sketch. As always, you can make this whatever color you want, but there is our part. So orient it so you can kind of see it. And there is your after picture. All right, hope it worked out for you. Have a good day, enjoy, and see you next time.